It is your Bastet developer update, ladies and gentlemen. We have the rework of Bastet's kit coming to you live in Season 7. The changes to her abilities that will be coming your way in order to make Bastet both better and more fun. Some cool changes coming your way. So right off the bat, just like with the Odin rework, they lay down all of the rules and regulations for them to rework a god. We've basically talked through this. You can read through it if you want to. Basically, we don't want them to be particularly popular. You know, maybe their win rate is out of control, bad or good, etc., etc. And they have no plans to rework an entire god, give them an entire new kit. They just want to target specific abilities that either suck or feel bad or whatever. As far as Bastet's specific stats, they're kind of fun. Popularity, she's the 55th most popular god in Arena, Clash, Joust, and Siege, the 74th most popular god in Conquest, and the 69th most popular goddess in Rank Conquest. Nice. So she's fairly unpopular, considering there's like over 100 gods in Smite. She's about right in the middle, smack dab in the middle of popularity. For something like Arena, Clash, Joust, and Siege, even below that for Conquest. So definitely a fairly unpopular god, but from a win perspective, not too shabby. 17th most winning goddess in Arena, Clash, Joust, and Siege, 22nd most winning goddess in Conquest, and 31st most winning goddess in Ranked Conquest. So not nearly as extreme as Odin. Odin was like really unpopular and had an even higher win rate. So still in that range of like not popular but decent, but not quite as extreme as Odin, but similar-ish type numbers. Odin was like literally top 10. So that's where that's at. So basically, Bastet's been one of the gods in Smite that probably, out of all the gods in Smite, I think Bastet has probably, the community has wanted her to have a re-kit the most and for the longest. There has been a firm group of make Bastet better people that have just been consistently asking for her to get a re-kit for just the longest time. So we're finally getting to that point, which is great. So the biggest problem with Bastet, as everybody knows, she's got damage. And that's basically it. That's all Bastet does, is give you some damage. And she really got hurt when they changed those rules a long time ago for how split pushing works. Her cats didn't give the backdoor protections anymore. And so basically the one thing that was the redeeming factor for Bastet was that she could backdoor really efficiently. And now she just can't anymore because you don't get rid of backdoor protections. So she's just not that good of a split pusher anymore. Not nearly as good as a character like Bakasura or something. So then we get into her history. The blue line is her match count. Orange is win rate. Green is ban rate. I love these charts because you get to see like this lovely slam up in the green for when you can see that she was considered really good for just a second. I love charts like this. So you can see that her pick rate pretty much fairly consistently low throughout this entire thing. A couple of spikes. You can see her play spike on that blue line getting spiked right when her ban rate goes up. So obviously there's these metas where it's like, oh, pick her and ban her. Oh, pick her and ban her. And then for basically ever and a half now, she has just been consistently considered schmeh. So what did they want to do with Bastet? Well, they wanted to target the fact that she's this high damage, high aggression, early damage jungler, and that's cool. But she basically is too extreme in that she goes in, she burns her whole kit, and then she's done. You pounce in, you pop everything, you pounce out, and then you just sit there and you don't do anything. And all you really provided to your team was damage. So they want to shift away a little bit from being 100% damage oriented and bring her a little bit more into the utility area, which is basically where junglers thrive. Good damage, good utility, allows you to have good ganks. It allows you to have good team fights, good 1v1s, that nice, healthy mix of everything type kit. So they didn't want to remove her core features. Her core features basically being her pounce, the way that it works. It's a very unique feature to Bastet. Her bleed, everybody knows about her bleed. It's going to stay pretty consistent. And the fact that she has cats in her kit. Bastet with no cats wouldn't really feel like Bastet. So they basically wanted to preserve those things while reworking and changing the other things. So you're going to see that she's had a reworked passive, a reworked 3, and a reworked ultimate. So a pretty large rework. Only her 1 and 2 will be staying the same. So as we now get into it, let's go on into her rework. So they have redone her passive, complete rework. So whatever her passive is now with that bonus damage, take it out of your mind. That is no longer her passive. Bastet will now mark enemies that she damages, causing them to leave a scent trail behind them. This trail will show Bastet where they are moving, while also giving her a movement speed buff while she's inside the path. So for all intents and purposes, this is a passive Arachne 3. So instead of using an ability to get it, she will just passively follow you if you've been damaged. She follows your blood, much like the way that Arachne follows the spider web. She basically will just follow you faster, which as far as a jungler passive goes, that's a good passively running faster at the targets that you're attacking. That's a good passive. So she's going to enjoy that. Now, keep in mind, her last passive gave her a lot of bonus damage. So she is missing out on a significant chunk of damage from her last passive, where basically you were getting a significant increase on the damage of an ability after using an ability. So she will be missing that damage, but she'll be catching up to you very fast. Her pounce, unchanged design, may or may not have minor balance tweaks as they fine-tune the kit. Basically, the ability is going to stay the same. Maybe they buff or nerf the damage, whatever. Same thing with Razor Whip. Might have some balance, small balance tweaks, a little bit of damage here, a little bit of cooldown there, whatever. In general, they're not changing this ability, though, but they will be trying to make the hit area and FX more accurate. Bastet just kind of has a really old 2 from way back in the day in Smite. And so it just doesn't necessarily, the hitbox isn't necessarily right. The way that the damage numbers go off can technically miss and hit. It's weird. So they're just going to make it more consistent with the animation and clean that all up, which is great. And now we get into the nitty gritty. So first reworked ability is going to be Bastet's 3. Right now, you throw out your Razor Whip. It hits somebody. It's technically an AoE, but not really with how small it is. And it slows them. So what they're changing it to is Ensnaring Claw. This will be a line targeter. Bastet calls a single cat that charges for it. When this pet hits an enemy god, they are rooted and take damage. So kind of similar to what you have now, where you throw out a line ability, it hits somebody, but now it's a root instead of a slow. And this looks like it will also possibly go through minions. It looks like it might kind of work almost in a Wheelix 3 is kind of the vibe that I get from this. After the pet hits a god, or when it finishes its charge to a complete distance, it continues to persist on the battleground and behave as a usual Bastet cat. It will attack and slow the nearest enemy and can be killed by enemies. Cats are now killed by a specific number of basic attacks instead of traditional HP. So instead of her cats having HP like they do now, they will be like a Scotty pet, where you just have to auto attack it a certain amount of times and it dies. So basically she kind of throws little Caldeers at you in a way that probably resembles the way that a Wheelix throws her cat as well. That's a significant buff to that ability. If it goes through minions, that's great for PvP and PvE clear. It's a root instead of a slow, and it leaves a body blocking, damage dealing, slowing cat left over. So entirely a buff to this ability, basically. Very entirely just a straight buff to where that ability was beforehand. It's just going to be straight better. Now, ability 4, her ultimate is also getting a complete rework. It will now be a self-stim instead of casting her cats. Bastet summons 2 cat guardians, one on each side of her. These mystical beasts empower all of Bastet's abilities for an extended duration. They attack with her as she uses abilities, increasing their area of effect and dealing additional damage. The cats summoned to her sides cannot be attacked and do not block players, minions, or projectiles. Ability 1, her pounce will now gain a much larger 3-circle pounce area. Her 2, which is her cone bleed, gains a wider overlapping 3-cone area. And her ability 3, which is her new cat throw, becomes 3 line shots, firing out 3 cats on each use of the ability. The bonus damage dealt by the additional areas increases as you rank this ability. These additional cats can still be attacked as described for ability 3. So basically it becomes a buff to your other abilities. So instead of like a stim, like let's say set, where you kind of get passive bonuses, this is more of a stim for all of your abilities, kind of like, yeah, like an old Nike 2, exactly, but in the form of an ultimate that just buffs everything that you're going to be doing. We don't have obviously the damage specific numbers, how much it buffs it, how much it does like that. Yeah, kind of like old Vulcan ult. But basically this is going to make all of your other abilities a lot better and just give them improved damage numbers, improved AoE, just make them all better for your team fights and whatnot. So as far as this rework goes, I think it's the most extensive one we've seen yet because Odin's having his 3 and his ultimate redone. And this was passive 3 and ultimate. And technically the ulti doesn't even like resemble her old ultimate, unlike Odin, which was kind of like a little rework. So with these changes and the changes to the map with adding an additional wall around the midsection, I could very easily, depending on the numbers that we see Bastet becoming a meta jungler off this change. They're basically targeting her weakest areas. Her ultimate is super cool right now in the early game, and by the end of the game, her cats are completely useless. Her 3 is just low-key, not a good ability. A slow is fine and dandy when there was 20 gods in Smite, but now that some gods launch you into the air for 4 seconds while you're getting smashed through walls Hulk style, it's a little bit outdated. So all of these changes should make Bastet a stronger meta god, should put her in a way better spot, combined with the map changes, combined with all the things that are happening. For you Bastet lovers out there in the world, for you Bastet players, Season 7 is looking good for you guys. I expect to see a lot more Bastet. Until we get the specific numbers, we won't know if she's going to be like top pick ban worthy. But from a kit perspective, even if the ultimate isn't as exciting, stims are kind of inherently a little bit more boring. Boring doesn't mean bad, as shown by a godlike set. So expect to see a lot more Bastet in your lives.